right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Soccer Performance Podcast. We are here for episode number 3. So episode 2, we talked a little about Canadian soccer culture. We went into that. If you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and check that one. Today, our focus is on soccer-specific training. We're going to dive into what makes an exercise-specific, what makes sport-specific training from a physical and from a technical perspective. So why don't we jump right into that? From a physical perspective, what makes training specific?
So, when we look on social media and stuff, like so many people are kind of missing the point. So if we want to look physically, we're developing capacities relevant to the game. What does soccer entail, right? There's a lot of distance coverages, lots of high speed coverages, lots of change of directions, accels, decelerations, right? This is all important to the game. People lose the point when they try to so hard incorporate the ball, and then they kind of miss the point physically, but then I think they also sacrifice technical training, which I think you could talk about that. So when it comes to physical, we have specific training and then general training, and both have a place. Some people dive down too much generally, which is wrong in my opinion, and then down too much specifically, and they miss the point completely, which is also my opinion.
Comes back down to that balance, right? I think from a technical perspective, it ends up being the same. Anything too much or too little is not gonna be a beneficial program, right? I think if you're just having a program that's consisting of, if you're in the gym and everything that you're doing is some sort of complicated exercise, it's inevitable that you're going to be able to really challenge yourself. When the exercise difficulty is so high, then something has to give, right? And I think when you're looking at it from a technical perspective, is the exact same thing. When you watch a game, the game is simple. Everyone plays in 1, 2, 3 touches, and then scenarios where people are dribbling or going at guys 1v1. But other than that, 95% of the game is basic. It's receive the ball, move the ball. And then it comes down to how efficient and how practical can you move the ball, right? If I'm receiving the ball and I need to go that direction, there's an effective and an efficient way to do it. And a lot of players compensate because they have technical gaps, right? And so now I can't go that direction the most efficient way because I'm only good with my right foot, right? So that's how I see it from a technical perspective.
So I like to think, specific in general, we're kind of on a continuum. So what is the most specific training to the game? The game, right? So you cannot get more specific than actually playing soccer. So some people try and go in the gym and try and make that extra specific, right? So for example, common things you'll see is standing on one leg on a Bosu ball or some sort of balance device and trying to, just kind of side touch the ball when it's being tossed gently at your foot. Now, would you say that's developing technique much?
No, and it's interesting because if I'm looking at it, it's exactly that. There's specificity in that exercise. If I'm looking at it from a technical perspective, I'm now just making it more difficult to execute the technique. If you're looking at it from a physical perspective,
and technical wise, could you just do that on the ground?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And where is that? Are you ever going to be in a surface that is that unstable to create a volley? You might be once, right? Maybe hypothetically, but 98% of the time you're on your feet, firm, trying to get good contact.
Yeah, and now some people can argue, well, there's a physical component, right? There's the balance and stuff. Well, actually, you're on a pitch, you're on a hard ground. You could do that balance works directly on the ground, and you can challenge all the intrinsic muscles differently, right? First of all, can you balance on one foot? Can you balance with your eyes closed? That'll challenge the proprioception, that'll challenge the muscles, those intrinsic muscles. And then another thing, can you stand on one foot and can you scan your environment around you where you're taking information and having to make a decision? That alone is very challenging if you're standing on one leg.
Let me ask you this, what makes that so attractive then? Like, why are people...
in my opinion, it looks fancy.
Is it curiosity? Is it like...
It looks like you're doing something. It feels like you're doing something. It is challenging, right? 1, it is challenging, and 2, I'm using an object. But the amount of work I can get done with a player with just space and a few cones, you could get a lot of good work done
But
and there's a lot of equipment out there that you don't have much value.
Exactly, and you said that. It's challenging, and so people go off of that. Challenging is a measure of, I guess,
effort
or impactful. Like, how impactful is this exercise? Like, I'm so tired, or I'm so physically drained, right? Because I'm really fighting to stay my balance, and so you confuse that. Same thing with heavy lifting, right? People lift extremely heavy, disregard technique, because it feels a certain way, right? It feels like you're working.
At the same time, they might do some HIIT workout because it's challenging, it's getting you sweating. However, is it transferring to any athletic qualities? Is it developing strength, power, speed, agility, which is important for the game? So that ties back into specific versus general. Are we developing capacities relevant to the game? Because there's sport specific, there's sport relevant. We can work in the gym, develop some strength that's relevant to the pitch, and that training is general, right? If we're doing a squat, a lunge, that's general training, but it is relevant to the sport because you want to have stronger legs so you can stabilize better. You'll be able to change direction better, and a major one is decreased risk of injury.
Would you say that training is a foundation? It's more focused on all athletes. Like, I can have a program, and I can have a basketball player doing it, I can have a soccer player doing it, because it's at a very general specific. It's at a very general level. So you're just tying in basic human needs: jumping, squatting, pushing, pulling, getting up from the floor, right? Things that if I happen to stumble on a crack on the ground and I fall, I know how to put my hands out, I know how to catch myself. And that's at a very basic level. Because I literally, and I try to tell my mom, like, you are an athlete if you have to get out of bed and walk. So now train just in case, life isn't perfect and you happen to fall. Now, you're going to do that on a soccer field. The level of obstacles that present themselves are 10 times higher. If you are somebody who is awkward and you can't move, you're literally asking to get hurt. And you see it so much. A lot of players want to play but disregard that they're unathletic because they're not moving as much as we were when we were growing up with everything that's going on. And I think the ACLs, right? So unfortunate. Part of it is fortune, part of it is just poor training.
Yeah, and could you have prevented that,
100%.
There's a lot of instances,
or at least reduced.
Yeah. There's a lot of instances where, new injuries are reduced, when a new sports science department comes in, they make good decisions, they have a good working relationship with the coach, and I have friends working in clubs, they said, okay, compared to last year, we have a big reduction in injury.
Yeah.
Is that, is a 90% reduction in injury by chance? Unlikely if you made some key decisions. Yeah. But dial it back, so general to specific, it's a continuum. So nothing's more specific than the game. However, so when we incorporate the gym work, and another thing to take into consideration is the training age. So if you're a young player and you're new to the gym, or you're still at beginner level on the pitch, master those foundations first. So if you have low gym training age, you would want to develop basic movements, that squat, those patterns, foundational strength.
So what is that? What is foundational?
So,
like, if you had to put it to layman's terms?
Yeah. So basically developing good foundation of movement. Can you perform basic fundamental athletic movements? Like Juan said, push, pull,
and
squat,
do them properly.
Lunge,
yeah.
Hinge at the hips, right?
Right.
Do them at a high level, and then load that, and then you can develop higher levels of strength that can, transfer hopefully to speed and power on the pitch. So that's kind of general training, which has importance, but a lot of players will just look in that continuum, look specifically at that specificity component and skip all that, and that's, as you mentioned, they'll go down that path, miss steps, and get injured. At the same time, I'm sure you can elaborate on the technical side. Some players can't even dribble properly, or they can't even use their weak foot properly, but they want to do high positional specific drills and stuff like that, but they're missing that foundation too.
No, of course. It's always that. We go back to training age, right? If you could be an 8-year-old, right, or a 6-year-old, and so your age and your training age might match more than somebody who's older. But you can be 18 and have a training age of 1 because you just started to pick up a sport, a year ago. So you're at a level where you have to start basic, right? It's kind of understanding that you can't be 15 And it's rare, but there's those rare cases that everybody goes off. Like somebody started playing soccer or basketball at 16 and now they're playing professionally. That's really not the case most of the time. So if I'm a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old and I decided that I'm going to now play soccer, then now I'm at a training age of 1 for the soccer training specific stuff, right? I need to learn how to dribble with my left foot equally to my right foot, right? In a perfect world. Obviously there's going to be
and at the same time, if you're an 18-year-old, and you've never done a structured, proper gym program, well, your gym training age is going to be the same as that 14-year-old who's also in their first year. Because chances are, actually, that 18-year-old had more time to develop bad habits, which then now we must correct. And just like you could,
so true,
right? You can deal with bad habits on the pitch, but there's also bad movement habits that we would, and it's much harder to correct that.
But I tell players that all the time that train with me. Like, there's movement habits and there's playing habits, right? If I'm moving, stop warming up, right? It's like stop doing the movements for just to get them done. Stop doing the drill just to get it done. It has to be done in a specific way for the outcome to be beneficial. Like, if I'm playing the ball to that side of the field and there's a defender here, I can't play it with my right foot because I'm putting myself in a likelihood of missing the pass by an interception, a tackle, whatever. So the simple thing is bring the ball to the left and pass it with the left. So that now my body's between, right? Ball, me, defender. I can pass. But if I can't pass with my left, that doesn't even come to my brain, right? I open up, no way. And now I have to put myself in a 50-50 situation where there. And that comes, and I see that those decisions are made at an 18-year-old level. I have some 12-year-olds that I work with that don't even think of that. They just play with the left because it's been wired into their brain from an early age. And that's a lot easier. And I think that's the beauty of being young. That if you can understand that you're in a position where you'll be a sponge and you'll pick up all these good habits or bad habits. You'll pick up whatever you do. That's going to be the way that you train for life, usually, right? It's rare that you have like an epiphany and you go, crap, I've been training like shit and now I'm going to go and pick it up. No, usually it's always a steady, increment or decline, whatever it is,
So on that topic, so we kind of, I was talking about general to specific on the gym, but now we can talk about.
Sorry, so we were saying do the ball mastery. You're at the beginning of that training age, right? You're at the first part of your journey, call it. So then, and again, we're assuming this is why it's complicated because this is designed to be done by a 6 to 10-year-old player. So now there's a frustration when you're 15, you have more awareness, you can kind of get by, but then trainers are forcing you to do these drills, and obviously you have technical inefficiencies, and so you get frustrated, right? But it's that frustration that makes players now just stay with their poor habits.
And at the same time, you could talk about the physical point. Some players, they're going to want to do some, high level coordination drill in the gym, like let's say some step up with some rotation or whatever, because that's, let's say, specific to running or whatever. But one, they can't even maintain balance in a step up or a lunge or a split squat.
Or are you adding more to it?
And then, get strong in that first, and then now you can work to develop that, right? So you take that player who has that ball mastery, and now you can put him now in game situations where he's analyzing the play. There's a defender, the ball, there's a play. He's doing positional specific work. Now we're more down that spectrum of specificity. And at the same time, in the physical realm, right, as he developed that, he's in the gym, he's developing his or hers foundational strength, some foundation of power. And then as they progress down that line of specificity, okay, now we can work to, now that positional stuff actually combines some of that speed, agility. So it has now a physical component, a technical component, a tactical component, psychological component, right? Because they're analyzing everything. And that is now complete training. But, working on the parts individually in the beginning has such good value. And a lot of people just kind of skip that pyramid and work at the top when they haven't built that foundation. I think you've touched on that.
It's at the end of the day, for me, it's repetition. Like, do things a lot and you'll get good at them, right? Just do the things a lot. Guys, anybody that trains with me, anybody who knows me, Anybody, and sometimes there's like underlying jokes about it. It's today the session is we're gonna hit 50 passes. That's what the session is. So if you can consistently, if it takes you 100 passes to hit 50, it's kind of an eye-opening experience. You're gonna be so tired. You're gonna be so exhausted. Well, yeah, you just did double the work than you were asked to do. And not because, it was just simply because technical inefficiencies. So that's my point. If you're asked to make 100 passes in a session, it's very similar, right? And it's actually easier because here you're unresisted, there's no defense. But it's training in a manner where the objective is similar to what the game is gonna be like. So if I'm working with a midfielder, that might be a session, right? If I'm working with a winger, I might do the exact same session, but now I'm gonna have that guy simulate a 1v1 situation like he might find in a
provided he has the foundations done, because
exactly.
First you want to develop a footballer, regardless of position.
Exactly. And
they
regardless
need these foundational skills.
And you said it, right? We were chatting about this conversation earlier, and you said it, like, you can move well, you can do all these things, you still gotta be a baller.
Right.
Like, you still have to play the game.
So for example, I'm saying foundational in the gym, can he lunge, hinge, squat, this movements? Exactly. What are basics you want a player to have before you dial into more positional work?
Basics, I think, for example, if I'm using my hands as my feet, most players, if my dominant foot is my right, I can completely plantar flex, right? I can completely point my toe down like that. If I'm gonna do it with the left, it's weak. So it's this inability to create a solid surface to make contact on the ball. So then what happens when I make my pass? It's like breaking a baseball bat when you swing and the ball breaks the bat. I'm here, bat's broken, weak output. And I see that. It's from the ground up. You have weak ankles. You have weak connection and control of when to put your toe down, when to curl it, and that's
lack
just
of
from reps.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's from doing the exercise, realizing what works, and I think that goes back to good coaching and good cueing.
Now, is it easier to teach that to someone who's younger, who has,
that's a good question.
less time to, let's say, had less time to have that physical, let's call it degradation due to modern lifestyle, like sitting in school all the time, they haven't been
lockdown,
they haven't been working on this foundation. I would argue it's harder to develop those capacities, like you said, getting that ankle plantar flexed, hitting with those laces or whatever surface you want to get. I would argue it's harder. So that's why the two actually complement each other very well.
100%.
And establishing good habits when you're younger is so key if you want to be a better player.
Like, I see that basic thing. Like, you and I talk training all the time. If I'm doing my warm up, a lot of players struggle, and you can see a clear visual struggle. We're doing a basic level activation exercise, right? You've showed it to me. Put my heel on the ground, press up, right? That is plantar flexion. That is getting your ankle to lock in there, raises your body.
And some players, they can't even hold toe up. They can't even get up on their toe.
So now you're asking that guy to hold that foot for a second long, make connection, still hold it, but they can't put the heel on the ground and do that. So then as a trainer, how are you gonna bypass that? That's like me taking my kid, right, to the BMX park, and he's got training wheels. Like, I'm asking him to get hurt by making him do things, or her, that are outside of their capacities. And so now you gotta do it in an engaging way, in a way that's not boring.
Yeah.
And that's where good trainers are good trainers.
Absolutely right. Identifying those deficits and then taking the player a step back and working on that. But a lot of times players can get frustrated bringing them back. Especially imagine you have an 18-year-old and I'm like, listen, brother, you don't even know how to move with your hips. We're gonna do this. We're gonna get a broomstick and you're gonna practice that. Yeah. You're not even gonna touch a weight until you can move better. And I'm sure if you brought the player down and be like, we're gonna just work on that weak foot, inside foot passing until you can actually
100%.
Be useful.
And it goes
it
back,
could be a very frustrating experience for them.
You said it, like, it's frustrating, and it goes back to that buy-in. At the end of the day, they have to trust you, right? Like, this is what I think we're trying to do, is to create trust and to say, we were saying it before, like, I understand that if I'm a 12-year-old and I look at an Instagram video, I'm not expected to be like, oh, this exercises, they should just be doing, like rear foot elevated, split squat. Like, of course, you're 12. So it's understandable, but I think the responsibility is like we even talked about in that first episode, is in the coaching. It's a kid is going to do whatever you're asking him to do, at whatever intensity you're asking him to do it. So if you can focus not so much on what, even at an early age, but like even what intensity are you doing things at? Like you could be jumping, but I have kids all the time. I can tell that you're doing it at a sub-maximal level. So then the outcome is never going to be what they want to be, and they don't know any better. So it's up to me to say, no, you know what? I know that this kid needs to do it a little bit more forcefully. How do I even let him know that? How do you tell a 9-year-old to create tension in your core, right? He's not going to speak back to me. Now you said it, which one's more difficult? Now you get the 18-year-old, and I do see that. That's a funny case. Like you'll get the young kids who maybe don't want to do it because they don't have that focus yet. But you get the other kids that realize, crap, I let so much time go. I'm 18, 19. I really want to make it. I want to get a scholarship. I want to sign somewhere. I've been now exposed to players who do what I've been told that I can't do. And now I realize, shoot, I need my left foot. Like I need my right foot. I need that. And now it's against the clock because now you put this pressure on yourself. Things that you could have been doing right early in your life, 12, 13, 14, 15, every time getting that weak foot in.
As long as you had that good coaching at a young age, right?
Yeah. And it's
which, dialing back to our
things.
last episode, we talked like that is getting better over time, and hopefully as time progresses, more younger players are getting high-level coaching at a young age.
Yeah, I think it goes back to you and I won't train everyone. So find somebody that you find trust in. To coaches, it's about creating overall good human beings first in all aspects, culture, attitude, movement, and then you specific, and then you dive deep into the details of the sport. That's how I even, like, there's this whole, pyramid.
Yeah.
You can't even talk about the sport specific stuff if you're lazy, if you have a mentality that you don't even want to work. Because that, I see it all the time. Physically being present in a practice is not the same as being mentally there. So I can train 7 days a week, but if I'm not mentally and physically present, then I just did volume. I just did more amount.
You just did work. Exactly.
I just did work, and we go back to fatigue.
And purposeful work, like you said, when you made a example earlier about doing those passes, you would have basic drills, like a passing combination, and they got to play a ball, and you said they got to make 50 passes. If you do that with maximal intent and your purposeful practice, every rep taken seriously, that is hard work.
Yeah.
And that's now you're touching on those physical qualities we're doing. But if you're lazily just moving the ball and this and that, same time, I see soccer players all the time in the gym, they're doing their squats or split squats. The weight is like less than 50% of their capacity. So you're not developing strength, you're not developing anything, you're just moving. Yeah. Like I said, pitch, you're moving. In the gym, you want to, one, have good technique to then challenge that movement with enough weight to actually create a change in the body. And this doesn't mean we're powerlifting or anything. This means we're creating stronger legs for explosive movements, for shielding the ball, holding your ground, tackling, jumping in the air, right? So before we finish, I kind of want to go in more detail on that kind of exercise pyramid, because on the continuum, we can also think of a pyramid where the foundation is kind of what we're talking about. So in the gym, we could talk about
jumping, running, moving.
Basic movements, but also kind of
so how would you say that
those
on
movements.
A level 1, on a physical, if you had to give me 5 words that summarize general physical on that base level, what would you say? I would have jumping there, obviously, is 1. What would you add to that? 4 more.
Jumping, running, let's say squatting,
less, yeah. And
lunging,
pushing and pulling,
hinging.
Yeah.
If I had to pick 5, I would go all lower body, but yeah, pushing, pulling. So kind of movements like that. So a push might be, establishing basic push-ups, lunges, getting good at those. Also in that bottom pyramid, attacking. And that being said, because it doesn't necessarily mean you do that when you're young and you never do it. in off-season, player revisit all the time, right?
Yeah,
Because we can go back.
It's respective to that moment.
Especially players who have injury history, right? We can go back in time, work on it for a few weeks, and then continue down the spectrum again.
Yeah.
And in that phase, we can also dial in on, okay, let's work on some ankle weak areas. Let's do some groin work, some hip work, just to kind of improve capacities in those areas and to lay down a foundation for more heavier work, right? So then, in the next level, we'd go into some foundational strength. And I've published a graphic on this. So that's taking those basic movements, and now we're loading them heavy.
And that's it. That's what I wanted to say. That I think the difference now is in that base level, most things are done unresisted, meaning it's just your body weight, a push-up, a pull-up,
Isometric holds, which we
holds,
give a lot
a
to
long
players.
run, your capacity to withstand heavy breathing. This is where, like you said it, if I'm working with an off-season athlete, this is where I might have that guy first day back from vacation or wherever they're from or where they're coming from. First day back might be a long run, right? But if I'm now trying to get somebody and they're 6-7 days out from a major competition or a game, am I going to get somebody to go do a 10K? I don't think it serves the same purpose, right? I might need that person to now mimic more like the game. So it might be short, more interval-based training. Oh, almost there.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Where were we?
So next, right? So as I mentioned, foundational strength, right? So this is,
Yes,
let's say
yes,
a
yes.
trap bar deadlift, a squat, a lunge.
So before we go into that, hold that thought. To tie in the technical to that base level of that pyramid, just like there's basic jumping, running, on the ball it would be ball manipulation, ball mastery. It would be that. It would be being able to do soul rolls with both feet. It would be being able to bring the ball with the bottom of your foot, push it with the top of your foot. Being able to bring the ball away from your body, inside your body. Both feet. All those small little cone exercises, again, mostly for players 6 to 10, 6 to 12 years old. Those are incredibly beneficial alongside a good movement program. Okay, what would you have in that next category?
Right, so next category, as mentioned, right? So loading those movements, getting strong, right? Why? Because strength is a foundation for developing power and speed, right? You could have a player come in and be like, Coach, I want to work on speed. I need to get faster. I look at them and they're weak.
They won't get faster.
If I get them stronger, they will get faster because speed and often power and getting up in the air or acceleration, it's applying force. And to improve force application is to get stronger. That's your body's ability to produce force. So if a weak player comes in, I want to get faster, the lowest hanging fruit, we're going to get you a bit stronger. We're still going to work on speed, technique and stuff. It's both important. But in the early phases, let's get you stronger first. Now, if a player comes, Coach, I need to go faster. He's got a good foundation. But he just needs to apply that force faster. Okay, we're doing power exercises, explosive exercises, speed work, a solid structured speed program. A lot of players missing the first foundation, now they're missing a foundation of strength, and they want to do explosive exercises, and they want to do speed work. They want to stabilize, they want to explode from these positions, but they can't even do a lunge.
Or
right?
if you have somebody who's, if I don't know the technique, the right approach to a jump, there's going to be a gap, right? I'm not moving to my full potential. If I know how to move with great technique, that's level 1. If I then go, and now my program starts with week 1, I'm learning jumping mechanics. How do I jump properly, making use of my arms, my legs, right, etc. Phase 2, week 2, now we're adding, like you said, a trap bar. Now can I get strong? Whatever period of time for however long that athlete has, right? It'll change.
And if you look at a youth academy structure from under 14s, under 16s, they're loading with dumbbells for a whole season. Like it's very patient work.
If you're not at a trap bar level, can you hold a band? Can you hold a small dumbbell? I would say on the technical level, if loading is the next, stage in that pyramid, on a technical level, I think is where you start to get away from just the ball mastery and more. For me, I'm huge on passing. Like there's so many players that just rely on ball mastery. They get very good at being crafty, and then you see them. These are the players. Unless you're just committed to playing offensively and wide, where that's the space to do those type of runs, you get players that now want to play midfield, and their style of play is ball mastery. Influenced. It's too much, too many touches. The game is simple, 2 touch, bang, play. So if I'm here and I'm in the middle of a field and I'm a center midfielder and I want to get that ball wide, I don't need 5 touches. Why do I need 5 touches? It's obviously going to be slower than 2 touches. So if I'm clearly understanding that I'm receiving this ball with the focus of playing it to the winger, why do I touch it and dribble it, right? And you see it, I see top level midfielders. It's the simple. And they say big midfielders make the position look easy because it's receive play. When you don't have that foundation from an early age, so if I have that ball mastery and I don't train that way, my other pet peeve is a weak pass. So let's go back to that. If I'm playing, you and I are center backs. I'm not talking about the pass that you're being pressed by a hungry, heavy striker. And then you may miss that pass. I'm talking about the pass where it's center back to center back, nobody's pressuring you, and you shank it. Right? These passes, these movements, the basic, unresisted technical things that you have to do in a game are, for me, that next stage.
Some players making silly mistakes.
Pass. Yeah. Exactly. Receive it. Use the outside of your foot, hit it. So on the left foot, a lot of players will struggle. Receive, they kind of are not good at pushing it with the outside of the foot. Now the tackle comes in because the touch there was poor. So I would say that's level 2. What would you say on top of that? You're getting now more specific in the gym. What would you say?
As we progress, right? So acceleration, changes of direction, tackling, they're all explosive movements, right? Taking on a player, agility, it's all explosive movements, right? Now that's where the explosive works come in. Everyone's looking like at this buzzword, explosive. But they can't even produce force. So explosive is now applying force quickly, right? So that would be, I have dumbbells in my hand or a trap bar in my hand and I'm jumping. That's explosive work because now it's loaded power, right? But if someone can't jump, they don't have the basic jump technique, they shouldn't have weights in their hand jumping. It's a very effective exercise, but you're not going to benefit out of it if you don't have that foundation and strength first. For example, if you're supposed to jump, let's say in a trap bar deadlift, your max is half of your max trap bar deadlift. Right. So if a player can trap bar deadlift 300 pounds, they can jump explosively with 75, 80 to 100 pounds. That would be a good range. But if you can only trap bar deadlift 150 pounds, now your halfway point is 75 pounds, that's your max. So now you're jumping with 30 pounds. How much more explosive is the other guy? Right? Now he's unloaded on the pitch, he's way more explosive than you. Yeah. So that guy who can jump with 30 pounds in his hand, well, get strong first, improve that capacity. Right. Dialing back to what I said, just working on that strength, you're already more explosive and faster. So exercises like that. And then,
would you say that players often, for example, in an exercise like that, you'll do a trap bar jump. Would you say that players often, what's a mistake that they make? Because that's a specific exercise, right? So if I'm a young player, I might make that mistake. How heavy do I make the bar, right? So because that's the thing. It's like anybody can do these exercises, but it comes back to being transferable on the pitch. So we're talking, you're loading a trap bar deadlift. It's because, first of all, you have good jump technique. You don't have jump technique.
You're strong in a deadlift exercise.
You move well, you're strong. So now you can put all these things together. And obviously, if you move with resistance, the effect is going to be more.
And once again, right, someone might say, that's not specific. Well, it's relevant, right? We're going to improve your aerial ability. Yeah. You're going to tackle harder. That exercise directly improves acceleration, so exploding, right? How important is acceleration, being quick over those 5 yards, changing direction. There's a lot of application there. And just if players focus on those fundamentals, it would improve that part of their game. And then, of course, they got to bring the technical side as well.
I think that's what it is. We said it before, relevant and specific, right? Like in the gym, I'm doing relevant work. Nobody's going to say that a trap bar is specific to soccer or basketball or volleyball. A trap bar is for explosive movement up. So whether I'm a volleyball player, a basketball player who's jumping up for a rebound, a volleyball player who's going to go spike a ball, a soccer player who's going to go head, that final outcome is sports specific. You can train the technique on header, but the relevance of a trap bar is for all. So if I'm a young player, what happens if at 12 I realize I like basketball? Why don't you include these things into your program so that regardless of where life takes you down the line, you have qualities that will improve your performance in whatever sport you play. But I think you mentioned the trap bar, as the top of that pyramid. I think then you go
third
into
level, right? The top level would be now the most specific work.
Right. So let's say a little bit more of that, and I think it leads on a technical level just to like position specific stuff. So on a basic level, I think that to a certain age, and that's obviously respective on every player, you're just trying to create a good footballer, well-rounded player who can attack, who can defend, who can pass, who can dribble. Let them then decide what position they're gonna, lean more towards, and that's usually, one, based on their attributes, two, based on their preference. But that's the most specific it gets. Position specific is now, okay, can we apply all the things that are underneath it?
So it's the most specific we can get before just playing the game.
And the final for me, that's that. Like
the game, and also manipulating a game. Small-sided game, 4v4s, 1v1s, 2v2s, game-specific things like that. That to me, and that's where the physical and now that technical, it connects, right? And then also in the physical side, right? Let's say it's general, but it's sport relevant, working on speed work, working on that change of direction work, working on that agility work. But now, when I do the 1v1s with players, 2v2s, 4v4s, now they're playing the game, they're scanning, and in a small pitch, they got to change direction a lot more than on a big pitch. So now we're on that specific side of things, and now we can see how building that foundation as we approach the game, it will be much more effective that way. And just want to say, that doesn't mean we're not playing the game until we develop all these things. These things are going simultaneously. Your general work is approaching, going up the pyramid, but you should be doing this.
Like I have and I'm sure you do, I have a pyramid within my session, right? Like there's a pyramid and everything, and it just goes to show that overall, the structure and the most effective way to do things is when you go general and you build on top of that. When you go general, you focus on, like we talked about in the earlier parts of our conversation, everything stacks nicely when the base is solid. Exactly. And then the next level after that, right?
Exactly.
I think that's that'll wrap it for this one, right?
Yeah, we covered a lot. So
I like that.
Yeah.